Hey everyone, it's Will with Crooked Chicken back for another rant slash review. It's time for our weekly dose of disappointment. I just watched the last couple episodes of the Winchesters, and this is going to be a twofer because one of the episodes was so bad it's not worth going into, and that was the second to last episode a couple weeks ago. It featured John and Mary going up against some vampires and involved this little amulet, and just I didn't really take in too much of it because somehow they pulled it off. The acting was fucking terrible. Like, they had these vampires come in, and I realized that it's the 70s and they look, at least one of them looks really ridiculous, but just the way they portrayed these vampires, and just, it was definitely a filler episode where it had nothing to do with the main plot point of the season and them bringing in these supernatural cameos and everything. It just was a fucking terrible episode, so I'm not really going to go into that one too much. And just the whole, you can't avoid your fate thing from the amulet, and John kills himself with electricity and then brings himself back to life to poison the vampire with his dead man's blood. And just, it was not worth the time. And just so we're going to move on and kind of forget that episode happened, because it was one of the bottom of the barrel episodes, and this coming from a show that has not been high performing at all. It has been borderline terrible and unbearable to watch. And it's nothing against the actors, nothing against Jensen Ackles, because, he put his heart and soul into this because he did it for 15 years on Supernatural. Now he's been in charge of this show. I don't know if it's really him that's had a lot to do with how bad this show is, but it's not been good. A lot of Supernatural fans just aren't really giving the time of day, which is completely understandable. They probably watched the first couple episodes and just kind of forgot about it, put it out of their memory. Well, I've wanted to continue on and bring you these reviews, even though, yes, the show is not good by any stretch of the imagination. And they're really, really trying hard. They're really depending on these cameos and these references to Supernatural, whether it be a few episodes ago where they brought back Robert Spate Jr., who played the Trickster / Loki / Gabriel the Archangel. It really didn't do a whole lot for the show. Yes, it was good to see him come back and play this part, even though it's not who he really is, because we already know who he really is, just from the outcome of the flagship show, so we already know who he really is. But to see him come back and play this trickster character, unbeknownst to John and Mary and their little crew about who he really is. So there's that little bit of mystery and everything, and just to see his charismatic character come back and do his thing, that helped the episode. And after that, they had that filler episode with the vampires, fucking terrible. And then they had this latest one, which was a little bit better. It was not, great, but, it kind of dived more into the Men of Letters kind of thing, and kind of got into a story between John and Mary, and you see their relationship really start to bud and take off and everything. Then you had the B story with Carlos and Latika, or whatever her name is. That's sadly how forgettable these characters are. You had their little side story where they're going after Roxy, who was in the beginning of the series, she was possessed by one of these Akrita creatures or whatever, and then somehow she gets free, and I don't recall how, because, again, that's how much I really pay attention to this show when I'm watching it. It's just so hard to get into. But they go to kind of interrogate her about what she knows and what she remembers. Turns out she remembers nothing from the experience. And so they kind of count on some black magic, or just magic in general, to kind of stir up those memories. And it kind of makes this woman relive the whole experience. As a result, they want to make her forget them so she's not haunted by them or whatever. And she just decides to keep them because she wants to know what it's like and how it feels to remember when the time comes that they kill the Akrita. And this is episode 10, mind you, so there's only, I think, 3 more episodes left in the season. Still no word on whether or not this is going to be greenlit for a second season. It's just really unlikely, but I could be wrong. Maybe the CW has some faith in it and they'll give it a second chance, just because Supernatural did so well for so many years. And so we kind of move on from that, jump back to the A story with John and Mary, and then have this former Men of Letters character who is actually portraying another Men of Letters character. He's an imposter, and this whole story about him wanting to resurrect his wife who's been in a coma, who was attacked by the Akrita way back in the day. And so he's using John and Mary as basically new bodies for him and his wife to jump into so they can go on, live their love story and everything. And just, it's an okay story because we get to see John and Mary really start to build on their relationship and everything. And then as kind of a little hook, line, and sinker for the episode, or just something to pull you in, they do mention the photo with Dean again, and so the Akrita are actually gunning after him. So whether or not Jensen Ackles makes an appearance, still don't know, because it seems like, to me anyways, with this picture and the fact that he makes John and Mary known, or he makes them aware of the Akrita and everything, maybe this is a different timeline. Maybe Dean, it's just a very confusing situation. Maybe he's alive again somehow after the whole situation where he passed away and went to heaven. And so maybe he's alive, or maybe this is earlier in Supernatural where he's come back to alter the timeline and it's something that's reset later by the angels or whatever to wipe this all out of existence. It's just a lot of questions that still need answered. Hopefully we get some of those answered by the end of the season, or what could be the end of the series. And just, it's a lot of uncertainty at this point. And so they're really counting on these supernatural cameos or supernatural references to really try to pull people back in, and maybe even pull the CW back in to give it a second season or a few seasons maybe to hopefully tell the story like they want to tell it, because it definitely will not last remotely long as Supernatural did. It's just not in the cards. As a whole, the most current episode that was on this week was okay. It was not nearly as bad as last week's episode. Like I said, that was it was a mess and just a horrible fucking episode. But in this one, okay. And as we draw closer to the end of the season, hopefully they really start to explain how the hell all of this is even possible, considering the main storyline of Supernatural. Why is Jensen Ackles' character Dean back to give John and Mary these clues and whatever to this creature? Is this something that has to do with, it's in the future? So it's really, all it's really accomplishing at this point is just leaving everyone with a bunch of questions. Is this going to add up to more Supernatural spin-offs or Supernatural stories, or maybe Jensen and Jared have something in plan for a comeback as Sam and Dean within this story or within another one? It's just a lot of what the hell is going on. So it was okay, and hopefully some questions get answered. But as of right now, we still don't know what the fuck's going on. So anyways, guys, that was kind of my breakdown, rant, review, reaction, whatever you want to call it, of the last few episodes of the Winchesters. With the season closing out, we just don't know what the hell's going on and whether or not those questions will be answered, because we don't know if they're going to get a second season. There's been absolutely no word on the situation. Anyways, if you enjoyed this little video, please leave those likes, leave those comments, and as always, please subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. It means a lot more than you realize. So until next time, guys, I will catch you later. Bye.